What's going on, my friends? Manny here, welcome back to the channel. So very recently I was able to capture some climbing footage and I thought I'll use this opportunity to finally continue the conditioning series, in which I want to share some tips and tricks for ensuring a good day in terms of climbing performance in order to send a limit project, take down some super hard onsights or whatever you have in mind. So first a few words about the background footage. This was taken in one of the flattest parts of Austria, believe it or not, close to the border between Lower Austria and the northern Burgenland, near the village of Mannersdorf am Leitergebirge. And there they have this old quarry or stone pit, I think it's called, on which you can do some rock climbing now. Pretty cool area, technical vertical climbing, you'll see it yourself. Alright, so from the four major internal factors, body weight, mental sharpness, restedness and special substances, we've got only one left to discuss, and that's the quite interesting chapter of special substances. Now, I'm aware of the fact that there are countless drugs which could influence your performance on any given climb, to the better just as well as to the worse. So I thought I'd pick the three most important ones and have a little talk about them. How did I determine the three most important ones, you might ask? I simply picked those which are most commonly used amongst climbers, at least in my experience, and these are caffeine, alcohol and THC. Now, before I get myself into trouble, I want to make clear that I am an opposer of taking any drugs because honestly I think it's just a waste of time. I don't smoke, I don't drink coffee, and 99% of the time I don't even consume alcohol, with the occasional beer here and there maybe. That being said, let's take a look on the effects that these special substances have on the human body and thus on climbing performance. This episode is going to be about caffeine, which appears to be the most commonly used drug in the world, followed by alcohol and nicotine, if you exclude medicines in general. As far as I understood it, caffeine is classified as a central nervous system stimulant, not as a neurotoxin, although the border there appears to be somewhat blurry. I think in order to determine whether caffeine could benefit our climbing performance, we first need to take a look at how the substance interacts with the human body. In a nutshell, caffeine looks very much like adenosine on a molecular level, and adenosine in turn is an essential building block of adenosine triphosphate, which represents the energy currency of the body. So as the day progresses, adenosine accumulates in the brain due to the breakdown of adenosine triphosphate, which is necessary to get energy out of this compound. So the body, smart as it is, thought, why not use the presence of adenosine as an indicator for how much work already has been done. Let's create some adenosine receptors in the central nervous system, which is essentially the brain and spinal cord, by the way, that induce sleepiness when high levels of adenosine are detected. This way you have kind of a self-regulating circuit to prevent overworking. Since caffeine looks similar to adenosine, it can block these receptors, but it does not induce the tiring response in the cell. To the contrary, the cell is no longer able to detect adenosine levels and cellular activity speeds up. The induced hyperactivity in the brain creates a bunch of excitatory neurotransmitters, which sooner or later hit the pituitary gland, which in turn releases hormones that cause the adrenal glands to produce adrenaline and cortisol. This whole signal cascade is what puts the body in a temporary state of wakefulness and alertness, just as if you'd have gotten into a fight or flight situation in nature, leading to effects potentially beneficial for athletic performance. From a scientific point of view, caffeine is actually one of the very few substances which is proven to grant an advantage in endurance-heavy sports, and apparently caffeine also alters the perception of how hard you are working to the better, meaning that the same working intensity is perceived as softer when caffeine is in your system. Now that sounds very much like it could be beneficial for climbing. As a side note, I want to mention here that caffeine is not on the list of prohibited substances of the WADA, the World Anti-Doping Agency, apparently because the substance is just too ubiquitous. It's in energy drinks, energy bars, chocolate and all kinds of other stuff, so that too many athletes would be tested positive. Additionally, I want to point out another potentially beneficial effect of caffeine, especially for climbers, and that is its diuretic effect, which seems to be significant especially in athletes who are not so used to the substance. I know some climbers, especially boulders interestingly, whose perfect start into the climbing day consists of smashing down some coffee and the subsequent walk to the toilet. And this only makes sense given that one of the most classic fight or flight responses is the emptying of excretory cavities, let's put it that way. Now this is obviously advantageous when it comes to body weight, one of the key factors of climbing performance, as I pointed out in previous conditioning episodes. However, that all being said, would I consider caffeine beneficial for climbing? I would say it depends on the athlete. I know a lot of climbers whose main problem is not that they are super calm, relaxed and psychologically too non-aggressive, let's put it that way, while climbing. Actually, a lot of them are nervous, a bit shaky, and in some of them you can literally see the fear of falling or the fear of failure or both. Would such a person benefit from a bit of extra adrenaline and alertness, increasing anxiety even further? I doubt it. As I said, at some point you will start to shake, your hands will get sweaty, and you will have a hard time to breathe calmly and stay focused. Executing moves accurately will also be not the easiest thing considering your shaky existence. And I want to point out here that this could be one reason why caffeine appears to be especially effective in endurance sports, which do not have a significant coordinative component. It's only basically repetitive moves and energy output. However, if you have the feeling that you're tired and sluggish, which basically means that you already made some other mistake during your preparation for this climbing day, a bit of caffeine could definitely help you with that. The bottom line is that no special substance comes without unwanted side effects, especially in a sport that is as complex and offers such a great variety of problems and thus demands such a great array of skills from the athlete as climbing. So that's my view on caffeine. Since I don't want this episode to become too long, I will discuss the other two major special substances, baby please, in the follow-up video. As always, drop some likes if you've got something from this little talk, and please share your experience in the comments down below. What's your opinion on caffeine? Did it help you to finally get your projects done? How do you react to it in a climbing context? This much for this episode. Thanks so much for watching and see you guys in the next one. Bye.